like how it's
Excellent timing.
crescendoed that.
Excellent timing. That's Star Wars percussion for you in the music world. Welcome back to Only Fools and Those Who Follow Them. I'm Alan in the U.S.
And I'm Sam in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Perfect. And we are happy you're here to talk about the one, the only, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Such a complex person. Such a complex story. And we feel like we could just do 14 episodes on Obi-Wan Kenobi alone.
Absolutely. I think this is going to end up being a two-parter.
Okay. And I'd say well-deserved as a two-parter. Because in our reflections before ever recording, we were just sending notes back and forth, and we realized this is getting out of hand. We love this character. He's so diverse in all the different feelings and all the different experiences that he has. To give it a proper deep dive, we might just have to go fully down the Exegorth wormhole and never come up. So, do we have any comments before we punch it, Sam?
Well, I think we've kind of prefaced it quite rightly there. That and that's why I kind of brought this Kenner figure of the Ridge Tridge Obi-Wan when he's in the afterlife form. Yeah. So because he's the only character, right, that we see like almost a full life of on screen. The only time we don't get much Obi-Wan action is his childhood. Unlike now we've got Leia childhood, we've got Anakin childhood, through to middle-aged Leia. I suppose we do get to see her in her sort of more elder years, but there's a lot in the middle that we don't see. There's the whole middle-aged bit of Leia we don't really get to see on screen. Whereas this guy, we do get his middle age on screen, and we do get even his afterlife on screen, which is why I thought that this figure was the right one to sort of bring to the episode today. So I think you're right. I think it's time to punch it. Punch it.
So the beginnings here, like you said, slightly different than other characters because we don't have his childhood. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, hailing from the planet Stujon, a deep core world, brought to the Jedi Temple as a youngling, presumably. And we pick up Obi-Wan with his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, trying to have some negotiations. And those don't seem to be going very well.
Yeah, they soon become aggressive, don't they?
They do. And also, well, the negotiations were short.
Oh, they were short, yes.
Yeah.
I know, look, I think, I was talking to you earlier about this, I think, I was thinking long and hard, and we when we did in our season 1 of Only Fools and Those Who Follow Them, this is not our first rodeo. We've been around and about trying this for a little while now, on and off over the years, and we discussed our favorite Jedi in one episode, I think, and he's always been my favorite of, I think, of the Jedi. I think of the Jedi Order, I think he's my favorite Jedi. But then I started to think today, I was thinking, actually, I think he's my favorite character, full stop.
Big.
Or period, as you guys would say. Which I've always found a bit weird because period is something else here. But anyway, well, it's multiple things, but it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a punctuation piece. Anyway, so yeah, he's my favorite. I think he's my favorite, and I think I don't know if it's, and it's this could sound overly sort of patriotic, maybe, but maybe it's because he's the most British.
And the most British non-villain in Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah, which most of us at the back, we're mostly we should double our efforts.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of that going on.
And
I always did kind of wonder if that changes the way you watched Star Wars. That everybody that sounded like you was the villain, and everybody else, these plucky Americans, were the good guys.
Yeah, I grew up thinking that I was destined to wander the halls of some sort of space station and and just do the bidding of the evil lords, of the
some
evil
dark
overlords.
overlord.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, it's famously depicted that all the bad guys were kind of the sort of stiff upper class Brits that are sort of although there are a couple of like other I think one of the commanders in the room where Vader chokes him, I think there's an Irish guy there, but
he's got the bowl haircut.
Yeah.
Looked like he ate his bran flakes out of the same cereal bowl that he got his haircut with.
Yeah, exactly. But you definitely. I mean, the Admiral Ozzel was famously played the headmaster on a TV show a kids TV show when I was a kid called Grange Hill, which was about a fairly rundown school in somewhere in London, and he was the head teacher. So he was never really very popular with anyone. Mr. Bronson, that was what he was called in that thing. Anyway, but yeah, and then he went on to play Admiral Ozzel, and then
have an epic fail.
Yeah, and then his apology was accepted. No, that was Captain Needa.
Yeah,
he also British.
Also oft.
We could literally just reel
run
them
down
off.
The list.
So he's the only one that I think initially until Rey turns up.
So maybe briefly before we really get into it, what for you saying he's your favorite character? What stands out? What makes him different?
I think it's the fact that he's got this sort of self-effacing humor. Certainly you see it a lot more through the the prequel trilogy, through Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. You start to see Ewan's portrayal shining through, and then that pulls into James Arnold Taylor's performance in Clone Wars as well. And there's a lot of these sort of quips and one-liners that are just very Obi-Wan. They're almost James Bondian in a way. They're sort of a bit cheesy, but just sort of self-effacing humor that he's facing the grave peril of the Galactic Civil War or the Clone Wars, and yet he's always manages to squeeze in the negotiations were short. There's always a little quip that he can throw in there, and he's never and again he's the consummate ambassador for courage under fire, in that sort of bravery whereby it is that sort of grace under pressure. Always, he's never flustered, he's never panics, he's
right.
He's and also that there's a sort of natural humanism to him. He can be clumsy and get things wrong. Oh, not good. Or like I hate it when he does that. Or when things have gone wrong, like the when he fights Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. I can't remember. There's definitely a bit where he sort of goes, oh, and it's all gone wrong, and then he gets pulled off the end.
It all feels a bit bumbly during that exchange.
Because it's all wet and he's slipping around all over the place. But and then later he's in his ship and he's like, oh, this is why I hate flying. But he just deals with it.
And he has, through Clone Wars, we get the great opportunity to see him fall in love with someone, and how muddy that looks, and how kind of awkward he is with it, but also determined and in his way and set to do everything right by her. Talking about Satine. And then he's got this great feud with somebody as well, with Maul, when he returns. So he's probably the most varied character that we get. We get a lot of screen time, and we get to see him in a lot of different situations
and a lot of different eras in life, because then in the original trilogy you get a much more elderly wizened figure who has he obviously has this mentor role for Luke, but then also he's kind of guarding this deep dark secret that rightly or wrongly he doesn't initially divulge, and only does so from the afterlife. So then we even get his afterlife on screen as well, which you wouldn't get for most characters. But there's also a humor to him there as well. I mean, the title of our podcast wouldn't exist without him, would it?
This is true.
So even then, there's who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Which to me was always just like a backhanded slap to Han Solo.
Absolutely.
And like Han didn't really know how to interact with this person. The Force. I've been all around the galaxy. I've never seen anything that controls all the. You're just a crazy old man. And to see him, that's how he's portrayed for a big part of that first movie, is as this like crazy old kook. And then take that in the context of everything we get to see him, of this amazing general, this kind of meditative hermit. We get the full spectrum of human with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he starts out as the Padawan, and the Padawan to Qui-Gon. And Obi-Wan at this time is very much kind of this disciplined Padawan who's got his pluckiness, and he's under the tutelage of a somewhat unconventional, I think we've called Qui-Gon a maverick before, a maverick Jedi. Doesn't fully adhere to the Jedi Council. He doesn't want to sit on the council. So he already gets somewhat of a different upbringing as a Padawan just by being Qui-Gon's apprentice. And I think that, well, I guess here's the question. How defining is that loss for Obi-Wan of Qui-Gon?
Oh, I think it's massive. So we talked about that when we talked about Anakin in a previous episode, that it's a hugely formative experience, not only for Anakin, obviously losing his sort of first male role model and mentor, if you like, but you've got to think like how much more time Obi-Wan had with Qui-Gon, learning from him, and suddenly then having to step up, even though he already felt ready for the trials and he was very headstrong, but he was also a bit rigid in his approach to the Jedi and the Force and the Order. He definitely much more of clearly a rule follower, as opposed to a maverick like either Anakin or Qui-Gon. And then, as we spoke about last time, he sort of almost begrudgingly, not begrudgingly, but almost sort of feels compelled to have to take Anakin on because of the promise that Qui-Gon has made him vow to keep on his deathbed, essentially.
Yeah. While he's just been impaled. Yeah. No, I totally think so. And it feels like a burden of responsibility for Obi-Wan, and something that he wasn't at all prepared for, and is doing it out of duty, which is so much of what being a Jedi is, doing things out of duty. But for somebody who was still a Padawan at that moment, to have to take on this duty that he wasn't ready for, and that he called a pathetic life form just moments earlier, really. I don't think he's fully ready for that. And then in the instance in which it happens, his master being offed by this, is he a Sith? This dark force user, who is this person? And after, he kills Darth Maul, as he thinks in the moment. The Jedi overall aren't known for killing people that they disagree with. So in the moment, how much is that weighing on him as still being the Padawan? He's offed somebody. Is he fully okay with that? And for that all to be happening at the same time, losing your master, killing this other Force user, and taking on a Padawan, that's a lot very quickly.
A lot to process for anyone. But I think that's what I love about Obi-Wan as well. He is the dutiful Jedi. He is, he, even if he doesn't agree or like it, he will still take it on the chin and calmly stride forward and deal with it, because that's just who he is. And and I suppose he made a name for himself in the Clone Wars as the negotiator.
Right.
He was, he didn't, his first instinct was not always a call to action in terms of, or a call to violence in any way. It was always, he's always upheld the tradition of sort of the, use the powers that you've got, the skills of the Jedi as a defensive art form, and not as an offensive.
To the point where his flagship is named the Negotiator.
Yeah, exactly.
This huge war vessel commissioned by the Republic, and it's known as the Negotiator simply because he's at the helm.
But then but he also enters all of these negotiations fully on the understanding that they inevitably will end up, becoming violent at some point, because otherwise the masses that flock to the cinema aren't going to be entertained, and so but that's what we want to see. We want to see somebody who is on the side of peace and justice, who ends up having to kick a load of asses.
And that is Obi-Wan. That is his MO, 100%.
Yeah, and he is the defensive Jedi. I mean, even in Battlefront 2, which my kids now play a lot, and he is as a that just goes to show how well people understand this character, and the game designers understood this character. He's very much a defensive sort of tank hero when you play as him. He can block blaster bolts for a very long period of time, against other lightsaber users that maybe can't, because they're much more aggressive and they fly around the screen a lot more. But he can kind of stand there and just block away for hours, it seems, at times. So I think people understand him. He is a defender of peace and justice. He is the consummate Jedi in my view.
Yeah. So when the moment his master is killed, he really takes that on as, I need to be this defender. And whether it's this pathetic life form I wasn't ready to be the master of, whether it's Anakin, it's now his lot in life to defend him, whatever that takes. And I think that's part of the flaw of the situation, is there's really no way to defend him, because he's thought to be the chosen one, but he's really set up to be the antithesis of that. He's the broken one. He's going to bring unbalance to the Force and everything that he does. So he's just set up to fail before he even gets started.
Absolutely.
Just simply because of who Anakin is, which I think makes him a bit of a frustrated, discontented master.
Yeah.
We showed a clip during the Anakin Skywalker deep dive of Anakin really murdering a separatist in cold blood, and what all Obi-Wan says afterward is like, Anakin again.
Anakin. Yeah,
done it again.
And there's
a lot of that.
And even he himself, he refers, you are my brother, Anakin. He refers to him as his brother, not his, not as father. Anakin says at some point, he's like a father to me. He's been like a father to me. And there is a fatherliness to it, but it is more like a bit, the relationship between them is a bit more sort of elder brother, elder statesman, and the younger apprentice, who's always pushing and almost competing constantly to kind of prove himself to his master, essentially. And yeah, Obi-Wan definitely gets frustrated with that, because he feels like all he's trying to do is to get Anakin to follow his lead and teach him restraint. And that's the thing, that Obi-Wan's always got that, he's always got that restraint. I think that's one of the things that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show did really well, was actually show how much Kenobi had developed that ability over time to be so restrained, even in the worst kind of conditions, when the temptation is always there to reach down and go for the lightsaber and step in when something is wrong. But he knows that the bigger picture is that then he's revealing himself, and the Inquisitors will come, and there'll be more. It's going to lead them down to a situation where they can't win. He's always, he's a master tactician. He's a master strategist. He knows. He's always thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. Which is the other reason why I love him so much. And so that does that really well. It shows that kind of level of restraint. restraint that he's always got, except for when he's in a cantina and someone's throwing Luke Skywalker around, then he's got to just go straight for the arm.
Yeah. Then he just goes into annoyed old grumpy grandpa. He's like, get out of here.
I'm not having this.
I'm really sick of this.
I've been watching this kid for bloody ages, and then the first pub he walks into, he's got himself and he's gonna get stabbed in a bloody pub. Not on my watch.
Ponda Baba. Your arm is your arm is the least of my concerns.
Yeah, exactly. So I think at that point he's like, yeah, that's the only time where you really see Obi-Wan sort of almost the aggressor. I think that's
because at that point his goal is so set in stone, because Luke has come to him, found him again on Tatooine. Leia has phoned for help, 1-800 Obi-Wan, and he knows that everything's on the line. Darth Vader is ready to execute all these plans with this dark overseer, and I feel like he's got blinders on in that moment. I have to do whatever it takes to get Luke up to speed, and for me to assume this kind of omnipresent role as this ghost master, which he at this point feels quite comfortable in knowing that's where his future is communing so deeply with the Force that he can just become one with the cosmic Force and lead Luke that way. He needs to get Luke farther and as far enough along the path as he can, so that Luke can see for himself what the galaxy has set before him and the role that Luke gets to play. Yeah, but there's a long time between Obi-Wan being Anakin's master and that Obi-Wan that we see in A New Hope. There's a lot in between there.
And a lot.
You mentioned
happens. Yeah.
There's a lot that happens. And you mentioned his ability to remain stoic and calm in the presence of the most difficult situations. There's one that I want to show. Actually, I got a couple clips queued up. One that I want to show from Clone Wars, Season 4, Episode 15. It's the episode title is Deception. And we see the lengths to which Obi-Wan is willing to go to fulfill what the Jedi Council requires of him, or what the Jedi Order, what he feels like they need of him. Even to the point where he lies to Anakin. So we're going to see, just before this, Anakin thinks Obi-Wan is killed.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's clearly, his relationship with truth is potentially contentious, right? Even before Clone Wars or anything, even in the original trilogy, So
him leaning into from a certain point of view, this is an exact line to draw from when he says that to Luke in Clone Wars. Maybe the first time he really dabbles in it, and let's take a look.
So, how was my funeral?
A better performance than your corpse gave.
Whatever do you mean? I fell from the top of a building. I could have killed myself.
Survived worse, you have. Young Skywalker knows this.
I took the vital suppressor as instructed. I was dead to the world when Anakin moved my body. There's no way he could know I was alive.
Not know, but sense he will that something is not right.
Keeping Anakin on the outside was critical. Everyone knows how close we are. It was his reaction that sold the sniper. I'm sure of it.
What's done is done. We need to get your transformation underway.
Well, time for a shave. Tell me about that target.
His name is Moralo Ival. Works directly for Count Dooku. Rumor is their plot will be hatched in 3 revolutions at the festival on Naboo. We tried to make a deal with Moralo for more details, but he was uncooperative.
Any details that might help me gain his in prison?
Ival killed his mother when he was only a boy. Told the authorities he did it because he was bored.
I'll try not to bore him.
Not again, Obi-Wan. The risks, great they are.
Yes, and so are the rewards. Besides preventing Evolve from abducting the Chancellor, he could lead us to Grievous, and possibly Dooku himself.
Facial transformation program loaded.
I know why you wanted to show that clip, because there's one part where once the hair's gone, he just looks like you.
I am Obi-Wan. I've been trying to tell you this for ages, Sam. I resonate with him because of this scene. So, to me, this embodies so many things. It shows Obi-Wan as he's so conflicted with Anakin. I mean, he cares for him deeply and he loves him, but as a brother. And as brothers do, they often scorn each other. And here, Obi-Wan is clearly putting the Jedi first, the Council first for this mission, and is pulling the wool over Anakin's eyes, pretending that he's dead. While Anakin, meantime, goes and tries to hunt down Dooku, Obi-Wan is running around dressed up like, turned into Reiko Hardin, this bounty hunter. So I think that alone shows, it encapsulates that Obi-Wan, while an amazing Jedi, never really ready in that moment to be Anakin's master, and might set up a lot of what we see in Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith of Anakin, truly turning. I don't think it's fully on Obi-Wan, but he's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's almost like you said, he was set up to fail. I think he just wasn't the man or the Jedi that Anakin needed.
Right.
That was the issue. It's hard to sort of blame Obi-Wan entirely, but on the other hand, at some point, self-awareness, maybe he could have recognized that I'm not the right mentor for this kid. Maybe we need to find somebody else for him. But because he's sort of, I think he's taken the vow, right? He's taken the vow of the Jedi Orders, and he does take that so seriously, and we will see that when it comes to his relationships and other attachments that he could have had, and he forgoes them. I mean, Duchess Satine we'll talk about, but he forgoes that potential for deeper human connection, because he wants that deeper connection to the Force instead, and so he will follow the Order, no kind of above anything, any other anything else really. And I think he then, that isn't what Anakin needs. Anakin almost needs someone that can put their arm around him and sort of say, I've got your son,
Totally. Anakin came around at the wrong time. If he'd come around during the High Republic, I think it would have transpired entirely differently. And what we just saw with Obi-Wan adhering to the Jedi Council and to the Jedi kind of wishes so heavily, it feeds in directly, in my view, to what Luke Skywalker says about the Jedi were full of hubris, and that's their downfall. At this point, the Jedi are already they're already demolished because they're so lost in what they're meant to be doing, and in their mind, it's about stopping these separatists and finding Dooku, and they're willing to do anything, even deceive their own Padawans, and to use their Force abilities to pursue this war. Where in the High Republic, it's much more open about there are Jedi who fall in love with each other, and it's not immediately written off as a no, absolutely can't do, which for Obi-Wan, it's written off as a no, absolutely can't do. Yeah, we'll get into Duchess Satine in a little bit. But in the High Republic, if Anakin were there and the other Jedi were able to see, he really struggles with these connections and with these deep affections for other people. There was this openness and willingness to work with that and to be open with it and say, all right, that happens. Let's go reflect on that. And let's see, how can we be okay with that happening and also be okay with being a Jedi? And if they're incompatible, we got to figure something out. And Yoda himself in the High Republic discusses this with Elzar Mann, who's one of the most powerful, most respected Jedi during the High Republic. But he's in love with this other very powerful, well-respected Jedi during the High Republic, with Avar Kriss. And he chats with Yoda in an elevator in the Jedi Temple. And he's like, dude, what do I do here? Can I be in love and be a Jedi? And Yoda says, well, I don't know. Can you? Can you love someone? Or what does it mean to love someone? Is it incompatible with being in tune with the Force and being one with the Force? Or to love someone, is it the most truest sense of being one with the Force? Like, that's for you to decide. Where that conversation never got to happen with Anakin, because it was like, nope, no attachments, no love. That's all off the table. You've got to ignore it. And he's not able to do that. That's his fall to Vader. So I think you're right. If Anakin had a different master, somebody who could tune into that, if he had Qui-Gon still there, might have ended differently. But Obi-Wan, that's just not him. He's not Qui-Gon. He loves this negotiator role. He loves the Jedi Order, and he really believes in what they do. And he's quick to adhere to their policies, whether they were best for his Padawan or not.
And so much so that continues, that pervades into his future as well. And then, as we've already touched on, he is then also prepared to lie to Luke in the same way, in a similar way, basically, because his goal is very much, he's fixed on that Luke is the last hope. He is he is going to be the last Jedi. He is going to be the last hope that can to redeem Anakin and bring his father back. But there is another. Because that boy is our last hope. He's fixated on that, and so he's and again, as the master tactician, as the master strategist, he is willing to use deception when he feels it's necessary. And I think that, again, that's why I like the character so much, is that he's always willing to do the dirty things if necessary. And the Reiko Hardin episodes show that quite nicely as well, that he's willing to get down and dirty and get his hands dirty and do what's necessary in order to further the cause of the Jedi Order as far as he sees it. Although his faith does get somewhat eroded, during the Ahsoka trials, when with Ahsoka, because he supports her during the trial, and so he does see some of the flaws of the Order, but he's so devoted. Other than that, I guess he just sees it as well, I don't want to say narrow-minded view of the Jedi, but that he is sort of fixated on the goal of ensuring that the Phantom Menace is rooted out, and the High Republic, if you will, is restored. Essentially, that's what his quest is.
Yeah, to return the Jedi to what they should be, which I think is the Jedi Order. That's
what he believes them in. Yeah, he's just a massive believer in the cause.
Yeah, but is unable to see that in the moment. You're referencing Ahsoka being cast out of the Order. He's complicit and okay with that because he thinks it's a reasonable cost to pay in order for the Order to continue. Even though the Order is going to churn out Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine, but they can't see past that. Where if they were able to commune a bit more directly with the Force, they would be able to see that Ahsoka was set up in all these different ways.
If you liked what you heard here today, don't forget to tell some old fools. Remember, who's the more foolish? The fool or the fool who follows him? Like and subscribe. Always.
All right. Let's get on from that. Here's a bit of an intro. Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
It's going well so far.
Going well so far. Everything's looking good.
Some on the surface, some on the towers.